morning, everyone. I am Kiyoko Augustus, and I'm the behavior coach for Life Skills K through 12, and I'm coming today to present behavior support using visual strategies. This training should be good for all levels, K through 12. I am sure there are teachers who are veteran teachers who may have worked with students who needed a lot of visual support. So you may have some of these um, things in place already. However, this may give you some additional ideas. And for our new teachers, this may give you some ideas of the way you should prepare for your students that will soon be back in school or you will be working with online. So let's get started. Life as we know it. Life as we know it changed a lot around March of this year. However, there are some things that are still the same or still will be. And one of those things is behavior. And that's simply because we all have behavior. We all have behavior. As we move through a variety of environments such as church, home, school, work, in every environment, there is behavior that we all exhibit. We also behave due to situations such as health. If you're feeling good or you're not feeling so good, you may behave a different way. And this is true of our students as well. If they're feeling good, you may have a student that's doing what they need to do and they're behaving a certain way. But if you're not feeling well, you're dealing with something, a toothache or something, and they're not able to exactly express it to you, you're going to see behavior. Other reasons for behavior may be family stress. And now we're going to deal with students who will be returning to us who have been home with family for a very long time in the middle of this pandemic. So we can expect to see some different behaviors. So I ask that you put on your extra special patient cap this year to embrace our students and help them to manage their behaviors and learn how to cope and use appropriate behaviors. Also, when we think about behaviors, we have to do some self-reflection, or at least for me, I have to self-reflect. How do I handle stress? And sometimes it's not always the best way. I may snack a little more or just worry, and that can make you have a headache. However, our students have different ways that they're dealing with their stress level and anxiety. So we should consider just how they may be processing. Proactive versus reactive. Well, we all understand there are sometimes situations that occur that are just beyond our control. And in those situations, we want to always use our best practices. We want to be professional, use the best judgment, and basically do the best we can when we are dealing with a situation that just happens. We're walking down the hall and somebody is just in distress and we're all by ourselves. We have to do the best we can, as an example. However, most situations, as they pertain to behavior, if we are proactive, then we're more likely to get a better result. 95% of successful behavior management is preventing the negative behavior. So let's think while you're going through this training, pull out your paper and your pencil and maybe put some initials down of some students that you know you will have in your classroom or you will work with their families and the students online. And kind of, if you know the students and some of their behaviors, you can start brainstorming the best ways to work with the student. Also, I encourage you to take a day and take time, and even if you need to pause this video, grab their bibs and look at the bibs so that you can start thinking and brainstorming how you're going to be proactive to help manage behavior and prevent the negative behavior from even beginning. We always want to be patient and positive. We're always creative in our roles. We have to be. We have to be consistent, and our students do best with structure. And we're going to always work to be fair and set effective limits. All right, I'm going backwards. Consider the student's learning preference and use that to help with visual support learning. Now, we all know that everyone has different ways that they learn information. Some of us are more auditory learners. Some of us are visual, need to see it, and others require a hands-on approach. And some of our students will have the same methods of learning. They will be auditory, visual, or may need to do it hands-on or multi. However, most of our AU students learn best when visual supports are in place. Many of these students have significant challenges with communication, social interactive cues and understanding, and how they process information. So we definitely want to be proactive and make sure we're reading the BIPs, we're thinking of our students, and we're making sure we have visual supports for the students when they are in school or learning online. Visuals provide clarity and predictability to the routine. It helps to organize the world that the student is in your classroom and online. It provides concrete and visual information. It helps to communicate expectations and consequences. It helps the child to communicate their needs and wants to you, and it reduces anxiety and behavior problems. Why visuals? We just talked about that, especially when it deals with a student who may be on the autism spectrum. You may see poor auditory processing or delayed information processing or problems with working memory or difficulties understanding or organizing information. Visual information is more concrete, literal, and clear. And many students with ASD are visual learners. They think in pictures. They need to see the pictures, okay? And then for our nonverbal students, pictures can be a communication tool, and we want them to be able to communicate with us. Have you thought about classroom arrangement? I know when I was teaching, I used to, a few weeks or maybe a month prior to returning back, I'm already thinking about my theme, what my classroom will look like, how I'm going to organize my desk. I'm trying to get out to different yard sales and things of that nature to gather little whatnots to make my room meet the needs of my students. So I'm sure you guys have been thinking and dreaming of classroom arrangement as well. However, with everything that's going on this year, I'm sure that's even more. Thinking about the way you're setting up your room and using visual supports while also maintaining a healthy distance and making sure everyone is safe. So I just want to give you, not necessarily an idea, because this is a picture of a room setup. You're going to set your room up to meet your student needs. However, let's get the wheels turning. Are you thinking about setup? And if you would like to send me a picture of your setup and just brainstorm, I'm willing to take a look and give my feedback. So anyway, let's think about how we will set up the classroom, and we will use our visual support with this setup. Visuals to teach rules. So every year we know as teachers, we go in the first few weeks and we work on teaching our students the rules and the expectations. And usually some of our rules, raise your hand, or this is how you line up, or here's where you put your backpack. Well, this year we have a new rule and it's added for everyone's safety. So we definitely want to include our visual supports to teach the rules of wearing a mask, how a student should wear the mask to cover their nose and their mouth, and making sure they're keeping good hygiene and washing their hands often so that we can avoid any spread of any viruses in our work and school and classroom environment. Now, I have quite a few social stories on hand about wearing a mask, what we're dealing with, and why we should wear a mask. If you should need or want one, feel free to send me an email and I can send you some social stories digitally. But again, we want to make sure we have our visuals in place to teach the rules of wearing a mask for your safety and for mine. Visuals to teach distance expectations. Students and our students, I believe, will thrive in this because we're used to seeing these type of visuals. But just saying or writing it on the board, or or seeing the words, that won't mean anything. But beautiful, bright, interesting visuals to show them distance will, and teaching them this, they will get it. They will learn. This is something that we will need to add into our routines. And I know you're going to, inevitable, we all will be making sure our students are understanding we need space and distance so that we can all stay safe. Visuals to manage emotions. So let's talk about these type of visuals. Okay, we're going to all have a day that we're just going to be a little, maybe not so happy for whatever reason. And when we are having that type of day, many times our students, they don't know how to handle it. So they will lash out, they will throw a fit, or throw something, or try to hit someone, or try to bite themselves, or do something that's not appropriate. So we want to teach our students how to manage their emotions. And the best way is to use visuals. So in the first slide right here, when I'm upset, I can, and it's about 4 different things that the student can do. So we want to give them 3 things to do, and the 4th step, which will be to return back to the work or to the assignment. Now you have to use your better judgment, of course. You know your students best, or you will know your students best to know if they need to count 3 times before moving to the next step, or how many breaths they need to take. But again, we're teaching the student using this visual that, yeah, we get upset, but hey, when we get upset, this is what we can do. And then we can get back to our norm. Some students, and it's specific to your student, okay? Some students, when they get upset, they need to take a deep breath 2 or 3 times. They need to count. Sometimes, or I've noticed, some students really calm down when they're counting. Other students need something to squeeze, and you may have something that you can give the student to squeeze, a stress ball. Something they can squeeze 5 times in one hand and 5 times in another. Some students like to draw or kind of color or scribble. So one of the steps may be to scribble or draw, and I've had students that like to color really hard, and we'll give them a sheet of paper and they color. And, after that, we move back into the next step. But finally, you want the 4th step to be returning back to work or an assignment. So it's okay to be upset. We all have feelings. We all deal with emotions and become upset at times. But as we process it, we want to learn how to uh, manage our emotions. And this is what this visual will be about. There are a lot of different other visuals like these calming sequences, which are steps to calm down. However, we just want to make sure we have those visuals in place for our kiddos. teaching consequences to reduce behavior problems. Yeah, we need to let them know, hey, if you finish your work or if you are compliant, you get verbal praise, you get some type of reinforcement. But if you do not do what you're supposed to do or you're throwing a fit, you'll eventually get that, but not right now. We're going to wait a while. So kids need to understand the consequences of their behaviors. And in this particular visual, this student has hit someone, and the visual shows simple, no computer. And that makes everyone sad because you didn't get to have what you really wanted. I really wanted you to have your computer time, but hey, can't hit. And then it shows, hey, you're angry, tell your teacher, talk to your teacher, and your teacher will help you solve your problem. And you'll be happy, and I'll be happy. So again, this is just an idea. I'm sure you have some wonderful other ideas and adapt it to your students in your classroom, but you get the idea. Students need to understand. They can't get something that they really want, or we'll have to wait. And again, this is another one. The student is angry, he hit, he can't, if he hits and he didn't get his computer, but if he handles his behavior, he may be able to jump on the trampoline, or if he talks to his teacher, he may be able to, the teacher will help him kind of manage the behavior. He may get to jump on the trampoline. So again, we want to teach we want to teach expectations and the consequences if you hit or you do something. So we're going to talk about schedules, different types of schedules. In this next part, you'll see schedules you can use in your classroom, schedules you can use or students can use at home and in the community. Written lists and schedules. We all rely on visual strategies to organize our day. I know I do, whether it's a memo pad, jotting down a note, or making a list, or having a planner that you may carry around to keep things organized in your life. And now we all have our walking technology, which is our phones, and you can make notes in your phones and different things of that nature. And just like we as adults, everyone needs something to keep us organized, so do our students. So we want to make sure when they come into the classroom, they understand what they should be doing, when they should be doing it, where they should be doing it. And so that's why, again, our visual support will be so very important. Schedules in class. The first one is a student. He starts off with circle time. And as he completes the task, he completed circle time, he earned a check mark. There are other types of schedules, which are like visuals for leisure. Again, you want to put things on there that you're willing for the student to be able to do at a certain time. But again, this is an idea of a leisure schedule. And here you see, hope you can see it very well, an object schedule. Some students like to hold things. And for those students, you may have to create an object schedule. But be careful, make sure they're not a student that'll put certain things in their mouth because we don't want that. But some students prefer better to actually seeing the object. We're going to talk about visual schedules and routines. Now, this is for a bedtime routine if you're at home, but you can adapt that to school if you want the student to do something in a certain order. But this particular schedule shows pajamas, then brush your teeth, then go to the restroom, wash your hands, read, and now you're to bed. So it's very concrete. The student understands what they should do and from the beginning to the end. Using schedules and building the routines. In this schedule, Jimmy, this is his morning schedule. He starts off with breakfast. He has his bath. He gets dressed, brushes his hair, brushes his teeth. Then I noticed, I thought that was interesting. They have television. Perhaps at the end of all of those tasks that he completed, because he completed 5 tasks, he needed some type of reinforcement. And maybe mom built in 10 minutes or 5 minutes to watch your favorite cartoon before you're on the bus. And that may give him what he needs, the reinforcement he needs to get on the bus and come to school. Again, these are ideas. You take these ideas and use them to give yourself some ideas of better ways to work with your students. This particular schedule, and I think you can adapt this to academics or in school, it can even work for a secondary group, before lunch or after lunch, or morning activities and afternoon activities. And as they complete the activities, they check it off with a marker. And you can laminate it, which is pretty cool, and they can easily erase it and start over each day. But again, this is considered a permanent activity schedule. Great visual. In this example, you'll see a master schedule is to be done and finished. I like that. Very simple. And I've actually seen this schedule in a lot of classrooms, especially elementary classrooms. They may be set up on in a certain area along a certain wall. And sometimes the students' pictures, or many times the students' pictures are on the schedule. And the student understand, when I come back in from PE, because I have to go to PE, they just move it at the end of PE to the next schedule, to the next place. I finished it. Now I'm getting ready to go into to math, my math group or whatever the next activity may be. But the student is transferring it to the other side as the tasks are being completed. You can also use that type of schedule to make a portable schedule and break down the master schedule into more simple routines. And of course, we always want to end with a preferred activity. And I like the portable ones because you can take it to the desk, or they can carry it out if they were going out to specials. I'm not exactly sure how that'll work this year, but again, you may not have them move from one area. You may want to create just a simple portable schedule in your area this year so the students aren't moving about as much. So just some ideas again to think about how you want to set up a visual schedule for students to understand what they're supposed to be doing and that they're, making sure that they're completing those tasks. And a chain routine. This schedule here basically explains everything a student should do and in the order they should do it. Again, many of our students need to see how to do something. And once they see it in pictures, they're able to do it. Now, will they need to practice, and will we have to teach these things in the very beginning? Quite a bit, I'm sure. We'll have to teach and reteach, but eventually, once they get it and they understand what needs to happen, they'll do it. Always end with a preferred activity. Again, we all need to know once we've done something, we kind of give ourselves a treat, and our students need that as well. And it doesn't have to be anything, but it needs to be reinforcing to the student. Using reinforcers. So we want to build in frequent reinforcers into our picture routine. So you want to use maybe a reinforcement menu. You can choose this or this. You want to have the child pick the item or activity he wants at that time. Place the item on the board as a visual reminder. If not, provide an immediate reinforcer. Then you want to use some type of token system, such as a star chart, or giving the student some type of maybe a happy face, or whatever it is that you may have that's appropriate for your student. But something to let them know that, hey, you just completed this and you've earned something for it. Here's an idea of a reinforcement chart. Again, a little old school with the DVD player. However, you're getting the point. Something that they enjoy. It may be a toy, but we have to be careful with the toys this year. Make sure it's specific to your student because we don't want sharing of any of these type of items. But it may be, some kids like to look at books or magazines or pictures or computer time or building blocks. So a visual so they can see, hey, if I'm doing this, these are the things that I can earn and motivate them. And here is Sally's star chart. So Sally is earning stars, and if she earns all 5 stars, she has a choice of one of these as her reward. Something for Sally, it was bowling, but we are going to make it specific to our students. Um, and she seemed to like edibles, so we want to limit that. However, she's earning something, so it's giving Sally motivation to work. Task sequence. So we need visuals to teach our students how to, task sequence. So for this one, this is a student who's working on hygiene and how to brush his teeth. And as you can see, all of the pictures from the very beginning on how you put on toothpaste until the very end when he dries his mouth are very clear. And the student can see, and we can verbally prompt him and teach the student how to go through each task. However, it's clear and photo so that students know what to do and how to do it. And the activity schedule, again, this student is working on his hand washing. And so you can see the visuals that break down exactly what he needs to do to wash his hands. Now, let's talk about now and next and choice boards. Now and next boards, you're pretty familiar. First and then, they call them now and next, first, then. So many of us use those. Actually, last year with the elementary team, we did some takeaways and we made a first, then, and a first, next, then board. But anyway, the concept is first we do math, then we do grade, or we do blocks, whatever the kid is wanting to do. We get them to start with doing something that's non-preferred, followed by the preferred task. Now, if the student is resistant, and we may deal with this in the beginning of the year, just returning back from such a long break, we may have to start with more preferred, then move to the non-preferred, preferred, okay? Then begin to expand into 3 sequences, the now, the next, and then, to get them to work a little longer and tolerate a little more work. And here is how you can teach that using, starting with the first, then, the beginning, the students is a picture is changed where the child is changes the picture for something they want. But using the first, then, the now, next, then, and then gradually you may add a different additional step in so that the students will be able to work maybe and do 4 things before finally getting something that they really want or prefer. Choice boards. Do you want? Example, do you want an apple or a banana? So you want to start with 2 options. Then you want to build in 4 or 5 opportunities a day to give them a choice. And then you want to gradually expand the choice. And then the other chart shows a chore chart. And this may work for some of our students. It can work for everyone if you give students chores in the classroom, which may not happen this year. But for our kids that are 18 plus, they may respond well to their chore chart, things that they may need to do. And many a times they are enjoying doing those things. And of course, we can use visuals to take into the community. We can, share these ideas with parents who are having to sometimes work with their kids in case there's a school closure and they have to take the kids somewhere to uh, handle some business, they'll understand that using the portable schedules and the visuals will be helpful so the kid is understanding what is happening. Grocery store, you know, drive home, and even using visuals to help students understand about special celebrations and things that are going on, because that may change the routine. So we want to front load them and make them understand in advance, hey, we're getting ready to celebrate something, because and we may have a some change in the day, so they have that visual so that they can understand what is going to happen. Getting started. First, you want to determine the type of visuals that you may need, and what type of visuals. Determine the type of use. Do you need a schedule for your students? Do you need task sequences for your students? Do you need choice menus and reinforcement charts? Do you need consequence sheets? And other, visuals for your students. Determine the type of representation. Are you going to use a picture board or portable boards or the picture ring or the baseball cards or picture books? How are you going to use it? Then determine the materials that you'll need. And then you just want to start simple and just build gradually on these visuals. So again, I know some of this may be something that you already knew a little something about, or maybe a lot about, but hopefully it gave you some ideas. I think I'm going to rearrange my room a little differently. I know this kid, I had him last year. He really needed some visuals, or he may really do better if we have a certain visual in place when he transitioned, because that's when I noticed he would become very anxious. So this year I'm going to be sure to have that visual set up and ready to go. So if nothing else, I hope it gives you ideas and get the wheels turning. And if you need additional visual supports, I may have some things on hand. Like I mentioned before, I do have some visual social stories about wearing a mask and why we should wear a mask. You need to maintain a social distance, and all of those type of things. I do have some visual supports that may be helpful. And if you need something, please feel free to email me, Kiyoko Augustus. My name is spelled Kiyoko, and then Augustus, Augustus. So if you need something, feel free to let me know. And again, I want you guys to know that we are starting a year unlike any other, but I'm positive it's still going to be a great year. And I want you to know that we're all in this together. So if you need something, reach out to the coordinators. And again, if it's something like just a brainstorming, the way you set up your classroom, feel free to send me an email and I'll be happy to give you some feedback or my idea about it. Or if you just have a question on a visual that you may want to try with a certain student, feel free. We're here to support you, and I wish you a great year. Thank you for listening.